Jeffrey Bannock. Sorry about yesterday. Had a little surgery. Had to get a colonoscopy thing. Not a big deal. Just making sure. Preventative every 3 years to make sure I don't have cancer. We're gonna be doing Leviticus 8 through 11 today. I believe it was. What was my? Let me double check that just to make sure so I can see what the actual. We had 8 through. Well, we should do probably. For some reason I said 8 through 9. We should do 8 through 11 today. Is that right? Matthew 8, 11? That'd be cool. We'll just stay with the same. I think we'll stay with that. All right. So we'll go 8 through 11 on Matthew and Leviticus. Perfect. That way we're both sort of evened out. We'll just go with that. Awesome. Hope everybody's having an amazing day. Let me make sure I'm live in the group here. All right. And we are live. All right. So we're going to do Leviticus 8 through up. So we are live. So we're going to do Leviticus 8 through 11 and Matthew 8 through 11. We're just going to make it even. That way it's easy to remember. All right. So Leviticus 8, the ordination of Aaron and his sons. And the Lord said to Moses, bring Aaron and his sons their garments, the anointed oil, the bull for the sin offering, the 2 rams, and the basket containing bread made without yeast, and gather the entire assembly at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And Moses did as the Lord commanded him, and the assembly gathered at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Moses said to the assembly, this is what the Lord has commanded to be done. Then Moses brought his sons forward and washed them with water. He put the tunic on Aaron, tied the sash around him, clothed him with the robe, and put the ephod on him. He also fastened the ephod with a decorative waistband which tied around him. He placed a breastpiece on him and put the Urim and Thum, Thummim in the breastpiece. He then placed a turban on Aaron's head and set the gold plate, the sacred emblem, on the front of it, as the Lord commanded Moses. Then Moses took the anointed oil and anointed the tabernacle and everything in it, and so consecrated them. He sprinkled some of the oil on the altar 7 times, anointing the altar and all its utensils and the basin with its stand to consecrate them. He poured some of the anointed oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. He then he brought Aaron's sons forward, put tunics on them, tied sashes around them, and fastened caps on them, as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the bull sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hand on its head. Moses slaughtered the bull and took some of the blood, and with his finger put it on the horns of the altar to purify the altar. He pull this up here. He poured out the rest of the blood on the base of the altar. So he consecrated and consecrated it to make atonement for it. Moses also took all the fat around the internal organs, the long lobe of the liver, and both kidneys and their fat, and burned it on the altar. But the bull with its but the bull with its hide and its flesh and its intestines he burned out outside the camp as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the ram for burnt offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Then Moses slaughtered the ram and splashed the blood against the sides of the altar. He cut the ram into pieces and burnt the head, the pieces, and the fat. He washed the internal organs and the legs with water and burned the whole ram on the altar. With its burnt offering, a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the other ram, the ram for ordination, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Moses slaughtered the ram and took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Moses also brought Aaron's sons forward and put some of the blood on the lobes of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right feet. He then splashed blood against the side of the altar. After that, he took the fat tail, all around the fat, all the fat around the internal organs, the long lobe of the liver, both kidneys and their fat, and the right thigh. And from the basket of bread made without yeast, which was before the Lord, he took one thick loaf with olive oil mixed in, and one thin loaf, and put these on the fat pork put these on the fat portions and on the right side and on the right thigh. He put these in the hands of Aaron and his sons, and they waved them before the Lord as a wave offering. Then Moses took them from their hands and burnt them on the altar on top of the burnt offerings as an ordination offering, a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. Moses also took the breast, which was his share of the ordination ram, and waved it before the Lord as a wave offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. Then Moses took some of the anointed oil and some of the blood from the altar and sprinkled them on Aaron and his garments and on his sons and their garments. So he consecrated Aaron and his garments and his sons and their garments. Moses said to Aaron and his sons, "Cook the meat at the entrance of the tent of meeting and eat it there with the bread from the basket of ordination offerings, ordination offerings, as I commanded, and Aaron's sons are to eat it. Then burn up the rest of the meat and the bread. Do not leave the entrance to the tent of meeting for 7 days until the days of ordination are complete. For your ordination will last 7 days. What what has been done today is was commanded by the Lord to make atonement for you. You must stay at the entrance to the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days and do what the Lord requires, so you will not die. For that For that is what I have been commanded. So Aaron and his sons did everything the Lord commanded through Moses. Leviticus 9. Got another four. There we go. Leviticus 9. The priests begin their ministry. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take a bull calf for your sin offering and a ram for your burnt offering, both without defect, and present them before the Lord. Then say to the Israelites, take a male goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, both a year old and without defect for a burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for a fellowship offering, a sacrifice before the Lord, together with a grain offering mixed with olive oil, for today the Lord will appear to you." They took the things Moses commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and the entire assembly came near and stood before the Lord. And then Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord might appear to you." Moses said to Aaron, "Come to the altar and sacrifice your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and the people. Sacrifice the offering that is for the people and make atonement for them as the Lord has commanded." So Aaron came to the altar and slaughtered the calf as a sin offering for himself. His sons brought the blood to him, and he dipped his finger into the blood and put it on the horns of the altar, and the rest of the blood poured out at the base of the altar. On the altar he burned the fat, the kidneys, and the long lobe of the liver from the sin offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. The flesh and the hide he burned up outside the camp. He then slaughtered the burnt offering. His sons handed him the blood, and he splashed against the sides of the altar. They handed him the burnt offering piece by piece, and included the head, and he burnt them up on the altar. He washed internal organs and the legs and burned them on top of the burnt offering on the altar. Aaron then brought the offering that was for the people. He took the goat for the people's sin offering and slaughtered it and offered it for a sin offering as he did with the first one. They brought the burnt offering and offered it in the prescribed way. He also brought the grain offering, took a handful of it, and burned it on the altar in addition to the morning's burnt offering. He slaughtered it for the ox and the ram as a fellowship offering for this people. His sons handed him the blood, and he splashed against the sides of the altar. But the fat portions of the ox and the ram, the fat tail, the layer of fat, the kidneys, and the long lobe of the liver, he laid these on the breast, and then Aaron burned the fat on the altar. Aaron waved the breast and the right thigh before the Lord as a wave offering, as Moses commanded. Then Aaron lifted his hands toward the people and blessed them. And having sacrificed the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the fellowship offering, he stepped down. Moses and Aaron then went to the tent of meeting. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. So they actually see the Lord then? Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat portions of the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted for joy and fell face down. Interesting. So God actually came down and holy fire consumed the burnt offering and the fat portions of the altar. Interesting. All right. Leviticus 10. The death of Nadab and Abihu. Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu took their censers and put them in the fire, put fire in them, and added incense, and they offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, contrary to his command. So fire came down from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they both died before the Lord. Wow. Moses then said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord spoke of me when he said, 'People among those who approach me, I will be I will be proved holy. Among those who approach me, I will be proved holy. In the sight of the people, I will be honored." And Aaron remained silent. Moses summoned Mishael and Elzaphan, Elzaphan, sons of Aaron's uncle Uzal, and said to them, Come here, carry your cousins outside the camp away from the altar." So they came and carried them still in their tunics outside the camp, and Moses ordered. Then Moses said to Aaron and his sons, Elzahar, Elzahar and Ithamar, "Do not let your hair come unkept, and do not tear your clothes, or you will die, and the Lord will be angry with the whole community. Hmm. But your relatives, all the Israels, may mourn for those the Lord has destroyed by fire. But do not let the entrance to the tent of meeting leave the Do not leave the entrance to the tent of meeting, or you will die, because the Lord's anointed oil is on you." So they did as Moses said. Then the Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die. This is a last ordinance for the generations to come." So that you can distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean, so that you can teach the Israelites all the decrees the Lord has given them through Moses. Moses said to Aaron and his remaining sons, Elzahar and Ithamar, "Take the grain offering left over from the food offerings prepared without yeast and presented to the Lord, and eat it beside the altar, for it is most holy. Eat in the sanctuary area, because it is your share and your son's share for the food offerings presented to the Lord, for so I have been commanded. But you and your sons and your daughters may eat the bread that was waved and the thigh that was presented. Eat them in a ceremonial clean place. They have been given to you and your children as your share for the Israelites' fellowship offerings. The thigh was presented and the breast was waved, must be brought with the fat portions of the food offering to be waved before the Lord as a wave offering. This will be the perpetual share for you and your children, as the Lord has commanded. When Moses inquired about the goat of the sin offering, and found that it had been burned up, he was angry with Elzahar and Ithamar, Aaron's remaining sons, and asked, "Why didn't you eat the sin offering in the sanctuary? It is the most holy. It was given to you to take away the guilt of the community by atonement for them before the Lord. Since its blood had not been taken to the holy place, you should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary as I commanded." Aaron replied to Moses, "Today they sacrificed their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, but such things as this have happened to me. Would the Lord have been pleased if I'd eaten the sin offering today?" Moses heard this, he was satisfied. The day they sacrificed the sin offering. All right, Leviticus 11. Clean and unclean food. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has divided hoof, and choose the cud. There are some that chew the cud or have a divided hoof, but must not be eaten. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof, it is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit that chews its cud does not have a divided hoof. Why is rabbit unclean? Interesting. The pig is not divided have a hoof, but chews a cud is unclean. You must not eat their meat because it touches their or touch their carcass. They are unclean for you. Of all the other creatures living in the water of the seas and streams, you may eat any of them that have fins and scales. But all creatures in the seas or streams do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you regard them as unclean. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcass as unclean. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean by you. These are the birds you would be regarded as unclean and not eat because they are unclean: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, and any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any type of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the whoopie, and the bat. Now, why? So I wonder, are like eagles and I can understand vultures, they're nasty, but I'm not sure about the other ones. Interesting. Okay. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded unclean by. Oh my goodness. Oh, oh, coughing here. Excuse me. All insects that walk on all fours will be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. So, okay, of those you may eat any kind of locust, katyd, cricket, or grasshopper. But all other flying insects that have four legs you would regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of these carcasses must wash all their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every animal that does not have divided hoof or does not chew the cud is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. Of all animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Interesting. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean by evening. So it's like bears too. It says paws. Hmm. Anyone who picks up their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean for you. Of the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you: the weasel, the rat, and any type of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of those that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever it uses, will be unclean, whether it is of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Whether put it in water, it will be unclean until evening, and then it will be clean. One of them that falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food that you're allowed to eat that has come in contact with the water that touches the pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from the pot is unclean. Interesting. Anything that one of the carcasses falls on becomes unclean, and even an oven or cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern of collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches any of those cistern or carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any seeds that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on the seed and the carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. If an animal that you're allowing to eat dies, anyone who touches the carcass will be unclean till evening. If anyone eats some of the carcass, must wash their clothes. If anyone eats some of its carcass, must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Every creature that comes on the ground is to be regarded as unclean and is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creatures that move along the ground, whether on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet, it is unclean. Do not defile yourselves by any of these creatures. Do not make yourselves unclean by means of them, or be unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves on the ground. I am the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore be holy, because I am holy. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves on the about in the water and every creature that moves along the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, and between living creatures that must be eating and those that may not be eaten. Interesting. So that's where a lot of people, I guess, here in Leviticus gets the shellfish and different things like that that you're not supposed to be able to eat. But I believe in the New Testament, Jesus does away with a lot of these old teachings. So with that being 9 through 11 on Leviticus, now let's jump to Matthew 9 through 11. Boom, boom, boom. Matthew 9. So, all right. Jesus forgives and heals a paralyzed man. Now, I think we might have read this already, but we're just going to match him up just for ease. Jesus stepped into a boat, crossed over, and came to his town. Some people brought him a paralyzed man lying on a mat. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." And at this point, some of the teachers, yeah, we did read this. We read this yesterday. At this point, some of the teachers of the law said to themselves, "This fellow is blaspheming." Knowing their thoughts, Jesus said, "Why do you entertain evil thoughts in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the paralyzed man, "Get up, take your mat, and go home." When the man got up, then the man got up and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were filled with awe, and they praised God who had given such authority to man. The calling of Matthew. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew who was sitting at the tax collector's table. "Follow me," he said to him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, and by the way, I read this yesterday. So Pharisees are the sort of leaders, religious type leaders of the lay people, and then the Sadducees are or connected to more of the ceremonial side for like the priests. So Pharisees are related to lay people, and Sadducees are related to the priests. So that was interesting. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked their disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, is it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have come to call the righteous, not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Jesus questioned about fasting. When John's disciples came and asked him, "How is it that we and the Pharisees fast often and your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered, "How can the guest of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst. The wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wineskins, a new wine in new wineskins, and both are preserved." Jesus raises a dead girl and heals a sick one. While he was saying this in the synagogue, a synagogue leader came to him and knelt before him and said, "My daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her and she will live." Jesus got up and went with him, and so did the disciples. Just then a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I touch his cloak, I will be healed." Jesus turned and saw her. "Take heart, daughter," he said. "Your faith has healed you." And the woman was healed at that moment. When Jesus entered the synagogue's leader's house, he saw the noisy crowd and people playing pipes. And he said, "Go away, the girl is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took the girl by hand, and she got up. News of this spread throughout all the region. Jesus heals the blind and the mute. As Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him and called out, "Have mercy on us, son of David." When he had gone indoors, the blind men came up to him, and he asked them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" "Yes, Lord," they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." And their sight was restored. Jesus warned them sternly, "See that no one knows about this." But they went out and spread the news about him all over the region. While they were going out, a man who was demon possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man who had been mute spoke, and the crowd was amazed and said, "Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel." But the Pharisees said, "Let it be the prince of demons that he drives out demons. It is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons." The workers are few. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to the disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask of the Lord, therefore I sent out workers into his harvest field." Matthew 10. Jesus sent out the 12. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These were the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who was called Peter, and then his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alph- Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. And these 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: "Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Rather, go to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message: the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely you give. Do not get any gold or silver or copper, or take with you in your belts. Oh, do not get any get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey, or extra shirt, or sandals, or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Hmm. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest in it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave the home or town, and shake the dust off your feet. Truly I tell you, it is more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves, therefore be shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard, you will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witness to them and to the Gentiles. When they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it at the time you will given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above his master. It is enough for students to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? Much more the members. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the ones who can destroy both the soul and the body in hell. You are not two sparrows sold for a penny. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny yet? Not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I've come to bring peace to earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. That's a very important one. I think that often that scripture right there, we need to look at that one right there. Uh, because so often when we talk about Jesus and stuff, it's always love, 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 which he very much is. But I think this shows the righteousness of him too, where, he's saying, hey, you need to know my name, you need to know me, or I will not know you in heaven. Do not suppose that I've come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever comes a prophet is Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous man as a righteous person will receive a white righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these people who is my disciple, truly I tell you that person will certainly not lose their reward. Matthew 11, last one of the day, and then we'll pick up tomorrow. Jesus and John the Baptist. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John was in prison, heard about his deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples. When John, who was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? Jesus replied, go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who has not stumbled on account of me. As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed sway in the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are like king's palace or wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. What did you go out and see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, and I will send as my messenger, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. Truly I tell you, among those born of women, there is not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven, he is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subject to violence, and violence people have been raiding it. For all the prophets and all the law prophesied until John, and if you're willing to accept it, he is Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let him hear. To to what I can compare to what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to others. We play the pipe for you and you did not dance. We sang a dirge and you did not mourn. For John neither eating nor drinking for John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he is a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking. They said, here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by their deeds. Woe the repentant towns. Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin, Chorazin. Woe to you, Bethsaida. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre or Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than you. And I tell you, Capernaum lifted lifted to the and you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you'll be lifted down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you, it is more bearable for Sodom in the day of judgment than for you. The Father reveals his Son, or the Father revealed in the Son, sorry. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these from the wise and learned, and revealed them to the children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That's a famous one. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. All right. Well, that's a beautiful day today. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. Tomorrow we'll be reading Leviticus 12 through 14, or 15, sorry, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, we'll do three at a time. We'll do three at a time. So 12 through 15 and Matthew 12 through 15. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. God bless.